Hello and welcome to the Aaron Roussos podcast. Today's episode is on demons and fallen angels. Now, I'm really going to ask you to be very open-minded. I know that I have gone on and learnt a lot of things about us, the system we belong to, and how we work as human beings, and just finding out the finer mechanics of it. And I did a podcast a few days ago about there's nothing that goes bump in the night, and so I'm going to answer the question and try and explain to you about demons, because everyone seems to be hell-bent on it, fallen angels, and they've just created this whole thing, and it is affecting humanity because of the fear that it brings with it. And it contributes to everything. Like nothing is ever like the causes of things are never really a singular thing in us. It's always a lot of things that that cause things. So to keep that open mind, I just imagine that you were not presented with demons in movies. They're in all our movies, all scriptures. Basically, for the last 2,000 years in our history, in our cultures, there's demons, and there's this idea that a god that we have made out to be like us would punish someone, and if they did something wrong, they wouldn't go to heaven, they would go to hell and live with demons. And there's this whole thing around fallen angels as well. And look, there's probably some of you that even say that you would have some form of proof, or there is something somewhere. And while I've said many a time that the human mind and can do some amazing things, because an unbalanced consciousness mixed with a culture of fear, and then throw in there's some residue, there's some memories in your Akashic records, in your ancient records within you, of different forms of life forms and entities. So you mix all that together and you do get these ideas, and really you think that there's such a thing called a demon. We know that there's no hell, there's no heaven, there's here and there. There's two places that we could possibly be as a soul in a human body, having experience here on earth. There's duality, and when we die corporally, we go back to the soul soup. We go back over the veil. Many people, like the terminology and a lot of the spirituality stuff that we know and have is right. And so we know that there's no heaven, right? Heaven is right here on earth within your own mind. Everything in the Bible, not that it's correct in its fullness, a lot of the things that are spiritual, multidimensional and as such, or in higher consciousness, are usually explained to you through the form of a metaphor. And I do it in my books. It's a way of bridging the gap between different dimensions, I guess, and so we've got this history of demons, and that's all you know. So when someone like me comes along and presents something and says, well, no, there's no demons, there is that cognitive dissonance, which you automatically reject something that's not given to you in the way that you normally get it. But look, most of you would, like I did when I found this out, most of us really would go, that's great, I didn't want a demon anyway. As the last video I was saying about, there's nothing that goes bump in the night. There's no entity that could ever come and take over and do anything to you or control you. And then, you know, with the demons and, you know, fallen angels and this whole story, which has all come from Hollywood, there is no such thing. And then people will come to me and say, but I've seen paranormal activity. And I'll say, yeah, cool. They'll say, do you know that, you know, Jesus was a master yogi? Do you know that he could manipulate gravity, matter itself, and do some pretty miraculous things with healing, moving consciousness around, accelerating tissue growth in the human body, and that's paranormal stuff as well, right? And so we can do some really, really amazing things. And people say, yeah, but I've seen levitation, you know, I've seen some really out there stuff. And possession, you know, exorcisms, and you know, there's still people doing exorcisms today. I saw something on YouTube the other day. Now, you know that we can do all that good stuff, the miraculous stuff, from walk on water, and, you know, things that was happening, you know, that we've seen stories of, and that, you know, say walking for water, friends, on water. There's still people that can do it today. It's through mastery, and that sort of that very thing that we can do that is miraculous. If we then get that, and we take it from a fear-based, and like you know, our mind, if we believe something, that is the one sure way to make something happen, okay? Thomas Edison, when he was a child, brought a letter home to his mother. And as a young child, and he couldn't read, and he said, Mum, read the letter to me. And his mum, you know, welled up a bit in the eyes and said, oh, your son is a genius. He can't be, you know, we don't have the facilities or faculties at this school to teach him properly. Please keep him home and get him some specialist care because he's a genius. Now, 63 years later, when his mother passed away, and he was cleaning out her house, and he was the most prolific patent holder, inventor, most forward-thinking mind of our time, at that time, probably even today, he found the letter, and it said, your son is a retard. He can't achieve to anything. We can't teach him anything. He will never equate to anything. Don't send him to school anymore. There's no point. Because he believed he was a genius. And I've tried this in real life. I've done this with real people, and it works. Because he believed he was a genius, he became a genius. The human mind is so powerful. And it's the reason why most of us have cancer, even though all other parts of our lives, for some reason, it pops up. We don't understand what we're doing to ourselves. We don't understand that we're holistic because we're born into a culture and a society that only deals with the physical body. And everything we do takes us so far away from our mind and our soul. So belief's really important. We know we can do miraculous things, and then we know that we live on the only planet of duality. When we die and we go to that other place, it's corporally, it's a singularity, it's a knowing. There's no you just know what to do the right thing there. There's nothing bad going on. If you ask someone over the veil for something, they're in full cooperation. They don't know how to say no. If they're not sure about something, they want to find the truth out, they'll come to Earth where there's duality. Because over there, everyone will just go, yep. And so that's the difference, and that's the system we're part of, and it's quite fascinating. So we know this mind can be super powerful. It's a frequency. You know, the best you've seen with your instruments and bits and pieces on Earth is a thermographic activity. You know, when we think and the patterns go and fires up on the graph, and that's synapse. That's the survival part of the brain. It has nothing to do with the connection to source, the mainframe. We're actually tapped into the mainframe, and we don't see that. So we don't understand that the body, mind, and soul, all three parts, are just as important as each other. Just because we're living in the physical, mainly here on Earth, doesn't mean the other two aren't just as important as that and can do certain things like that. So the mind is this unbelievable thing, crazy, and there's all these other things at play, but we can do miraculous things, the things that are just amazing. And so these poltergeist, exorcisms, all this other stuff, where you're seeing paranormal activity in a place where there's duality, is the negative side of that. It's the dark side of that. And so basically that is the residue from our Akashic reincarnation records of different entities, and fear-based. So all of your experience here on Earth, from a very early age, you learn that whether you go to church, demons, most religions. I was talking to someone, Jehovah's Witness, the other day, and they said the world is actually ruled by Satan right now. Now, what hope have you got if that's what you're told and you just believe it? Or you believe that source, and thousands, millions of people are going to that church every week and being told that Satan, and they're not questioning it, they're not testing it, they're not asking and being curious about finding the truth, they just accept it. Fear mixed with this powerful, miraculous things that we can do on the negative side of it, with unbalanced consciousness. Okay, consciousness is energy. That's why we get the paranormal activity. That's why we can heal with consciousness, right? It's energy. It's proven. There's a thing called the One Project. You can look it up. There's all these very well-known scientists that have proven that our energy is our consciousness is energy. Emerging science, right? That's what does the miraculous things. That's what can move things. That's what can levitate. That's what can affect and change matter. So that paranormal activity and negative things is all an unbalanced consciousness in a state of fear on the negative side, mixed with the residue. So we know we can do the miraculous stuff on the other side, and it's pretty cool. And the mind is unbelievable what it can do. You can't see, you can't really see through my eyes, but if you could, some of the times that I've asked questions to learn something, they've been given to me, and I've been put in a spot or made to do something through an intuitive download, and I've actually thought something. My mind has made me absolutely think that this miraculous, and then I've had to go stop and go, no, hang on a minute. So it might be a very very big thing, or very hard for you to shed all of that conditioning, all of that life, all of, the reincarnation for the last couple of thousand years that has presented to you a story of demons. Now, all of that story that was presented to you, the demons, the fallen angels, you have no proof whatsoever of any of that. But at the corner of you, you've heard about this guy that was possessed by a poltergeist and had an exorcism, and these very little negative things that you still, some of you might have seen it with your very own eyes, but I've just told you what it is now. And as we know, you can do 100 things really beautifully in life, and one shit thing, and that shit thing will be the energy that what sticks out. I can tell you 100 really beautiful things about you and how nice you are because you've accepted this conditioning, how trusting you are. I can tell you all the nice things. But then if I turn around and say you are the problem, you will forget the 99 things, and all you will remember is the negative thing I said about you, and I said that you're the problem. This happens to me all the time. I gain 100 followers and lose 2. Those 2 are the people that are traumatized, those people that are brainwashed, humanly conditioned to believe something, and then when I present the truth, the core truth, or I shine my light, it is too much for them. And so rather than them take stock, go and try and find some form of proof themselves and then grow as human beings, they opt just not to even scratch the surface. They'd like to just sweep it under the rug and move on and go somewhere else themselves. The reason why I share a lot of these things with you is because you're all lovely people, and I really do have a soft spot for humanity. I really do have spent most of my life, even before I was spiritual, even before I knew all this stuff, even when I was dumb and conditioned, and I've always been quite dumb. I really couldn't learn things at school. And but I still, even as a child, I look back and have these most beautiful memories of hanging out with my nan and extended family and stuff, and they're just like, Aaron, you're a lovely kid. Why are you so patient? Why would you give anyone the shirt off your back and suffer yourself? You know what I mean? That's the sort of person I was. I really love people, and it's not reserved for people like me. I love all walks of life, all ages. I've always, I guess when I developed my communication skills, because I didn't have an education, because I didn't do any good at education, the only way that I could build up some form of way to communicate with people was through my family's restaurants. My dad used to have a hospitality business. He had a sandwich bar. I think about 11 or 12 restaurants, a pub, a seafood business, and so a few cafes. So through these businesses, I would work with him in the kitchen, but I get to know the delivery guys and the people setting up and front of house. And then when I built up enough confidence, I started working out the front. And I'd be a waiter. By the time I got to 18, I was out the front, and at the time it was, it was a bit of a development thing. And And so through that, you get to see the whole array of community and different cultures, different geographic locations all around Australia and all around the world that I went. And I was able to meet some amazing people, right up to just very recently. We had a restaurant in Noosa on the river, a small 40-seat Greek restaurant. I'm at the front, and people are all there on holidays from all around Australia. And the energy exchange, it was all about laughing. You know, my dad used to get really annoyed because he goes, all I can hear from that dining room is laughing. And it was a beautiful thing. It was just people out amongst people laughing, enjoying each other's companionship, eating some good food, and sharing some stories. And I'd obviously share a lot of jokes. So that's that to me was amazing. I loved it. I really, really loved it. So then, my journey is my story. Your journey is your story. My quest and things that are, focuses or attract my interest are all to do with my theme of my story and where I'm going. And each one of you has your own theme, your own quest, your own, things might have happened to you and you go, right, well, I'm going to find out what this is about. And each and every one of us is very unique, but we're all connected. We all still are a human being on a planet. We all still have this beautiful intuition which comes through a piece of light which is inside us, which gives us this divinity, or gives us that soul part of us that we all have. And regardless of how much on earth we are all divided and shown alternatives and made to oppose each other and keep us in a state of confusion, we all still realize that we're the same. And you only need to see that to look at different times. I've seen it and I've studied it, but in times of trouble, two human beings that would have normally, through division and having different religions or different backgrounds or whatever, in times of trouble they band together as humans, and it's amazing. Now, isn't it terrible that the only time we really appreciate humanism and come together and like we should all the time is in bad times? But that's because our culture, our societies are all driving and dictating to us what's going on, because we think that we're born and they take so much money and taxes and stuff off us that they're saying, well, we provide you with what's best for you, the best roads, best, this and medicine, and but it's all mixed up and quite confused because there's money and stuff thrown into it. So it was a big game changer for me when I realized that there's no demons, there's no fallen angels, there's no hell. There's entities and life forces of all different types. And that's another part of it as well. Life is a multi-dimensional crockpot. But so we do have, some form of feeling and about there's something there, but we don't know what it is. And then when we're in a fear state and unbalanced consciousness, that's where all these things can come about. I've had things through that process happen where I have, without an absolute doubt, thought that something was the way it was, only to realize that was my mind in that fear state with that mixed together, giving me something that absolutely had nothing to do with the truth. But I thought, I would have almost put my life on it. That's how believing the mind part is. And they're all tools, right? It's all tools that we have, and we're not a society, we're not a world, we're not humans that really embrace and understand everything we're about, because we're in an infancy, we're in a very young stage. And so, to know, I'll tell you what happens is to understand this and to shed stuff. And, I did, a podcast on just how to actually just get to test everything, to not believe anyone or anything, and get proof and ask so many curious questions until you have a good understanding. But for me, it was about, my last few years, I was really growing for the last 7 years. And the last part of that growth was for me to do, study how we transmute things out of our lives. And the things that we need to transmute are fears, insecurities, wounds, traumas. And so with the fears part, I grew up going to bed after watching a horror movie thinking, there's demons or ghosts or things coming to get me. Not great. And then you still do it as an adult, right? After you watch a horror movie and go to bed. And so I was like, all right, well, I need to go and work out what are ghosts, how are they, and confront those fears. And when I found out there's the crystalline grid, and they're, holographic energetic prints in the crystalline grid that keep replaying, and they're not here actually haunting us, it's just a replay loop, a bit of that fear drops away. To know there's no hell. Doesn't matter what I do wrong, I'm going to be accepted back to the soul soup, back home with the rest of you. That's where we all end up. You, me, we're all going to be together there. You listening to this podcast now, when we all die and we're over there, we're all going to be talking about this. We're all going to be going, hey, remember when we were over there and we're all divided and you said to us, we're all going to be together. We're all going to remember and have this remembrance of this energetic imprint of this thought right now. And so as you go along and you realise, I was doing it for me. When they say you got to face your fears and all the rest of it, I was so scared I just couldn't face my fears. I just accepted them. And so through this process, as a final thing in my spiritual growth and my not spiritual growth, but just growth as a person, we're all spiritual, I had to go and face all these fears head on. And whatever I was fearful of, I had to sit with them. I had to expose myself to them. And I had to really, really, really stay there until I understood it to a point where it got transmuted and dissolved and went away. So now I'm not scared of ghosts. I know there's no demons. I know there's no hell. I know there's entities and life pieces of different forms of life all over the galaxy. I know that I have light spark from the Creator that would diffuse or what those entities are quite scared of, because it is the light. They don't have the light, which is a life force, which is an energy force, which all goes back to science and physics and quantum physics and quantum biology. It's all explainable. There is nothing that I tell you or share with you that can't be completely explained and logically worked out once you understand it. So my life's different now. If there's nothing to fear, I react differently to life. Those times where even now, because we're human beings, right? We always, it's hard for us to accept stuff even when we know it. It takes back and forth and that, because You know, I've been fearful all my life, so even though I know that there's none of these things now, every now and then I watch a movie and then I'll get a little bit scared and I go, hang on a minute. You got to remind yourself. You got to keep going back. It's like a memory muscle. You've got to keep going back and reminding yourself there's no such thing. And so it takes time. It's not the normal way you work things out. And the first step is always, whether it be, you know, facing, realizing those things or anything, is you've got to drop the human conditioning which you've taken on board, that you have no proof of whatsoever. There's nothing wrong with questioning and being really, really curious about things that come out that everyone is widely accepted. Just because it's widely accepted and everyone's accepted that this is the case doesn't mean you can't turn around and go, hang on a minute, how does this work? What do you mean? How does it work? What's the mechanics of it? How does it affect us? Where does it fit into the line? You know, you can still go and ask all of those questions. But as human beings, we just want to be like the next person. We don't want to make a ruckus. We don't want to, you know, stand out. We don't want to bring attention to ourselves. We don't want to get into, you know. But if you do, you have a bigger awareness. Awareness raises your consciousness, and consciousness does, like, it can make you levitate. It can make you walk on water if you know how to master it. It's energy. Energy can be group energy, can move, it can be in different places. And the one project, this is all backed by science. Everything I tell you is backed by science. And everything I tell you, don't believe me, go and test it out for yourself. But these things will, especially at this time, will bring some form of clarity, okay? The world is such a confusing, distracting, overwhelming, and complete mess as far as I see it. And, you know, I've had to do things as a strong, like, you've heard me talk, right? You've seen me articulate. And I was talking to a friend the other day, and I said, I couldn't do this a year ago. I couldn't sit there and do a podcast and articulate what I mean from what I felt from all this stuff from the past. And I'm so now, you know, proven it to myself. I've tested these things, I've done them, whatever. And I'm saying, don't believe me, you go and do your own testing and you question everything I tell you, because I'm absolutely open and transparent and share every process with you. And I want you to do it for yourself, not believe me, because that's why we got into this mess in the first place. I know there's been a lot of lazy people that like look at it and go, yep, that's it, I'll take that. And that's the way we've been told that it's okay and acceptable in the past, is that we trust it from our family or a trusted source, and we don't have to investigate it. We just trust those people. We just take it on board, and that's a lazy way of going in life. And then all of a sudden we realise that 80% of that stuff that we've accumulated and taken into our sub-belief system is actually not true, and it's fucking us up and making our lives pretty shit. So even though I am able now to articulate it, I've done some years of transmuting and nothing else, fears, wounds, and doing all of that stuff, I'm still not strong enough to deal with the distractions of life. So it's the third day of 2026, which is a 1 year in numerology, which has no relevance to this conversation. But I decided at the end of last year that that nothing that I was doing on social media was good for me. Now on social media, I get on there and I get likes, I get attention. I've got my friends and family on there. I get to see where they're at. There's all these things that I'm addicted to on social media. But when I post something, because we're all in a culture, we're basically not the sort of culture that goes, wow, that's a pretty big statement. I'm going to really study this and hone down on it and see what this guy's talking about. No, though, or if people don't understand, they laugh, they ridicule. So I had to weigh up and go, well, you know what? As much as I'm addicted to it and addicted to this tension and my family and these loops and finding out about these interesting things, the majority of it makes me overwhelmed, fearful. I see so much lies on there. Like out of 100 posts, at least 60 of them are lies, because I know what I know now. And so I had to make the decision that I was going to turn it off. And I was like, oh, great. You can't even, this is what I'm saying to myself. I'm like, oh, you can't even, you're not even strong enough yourself just to check in and, get your updates and and get off. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Because even after saying that I'm going to do this for 3 months and winding down and stuff, on the first day of this year, the first day when I'm off social media, I had someone send me an email with a Facebook link in the bottom, and I clicked it and I got straight onto there and I started doom scrolling, and then it was 3 hours later. So on my first day of being off social media, I got tricked into being on social media for 3-4 hours straight. Do you see what I mean? It can happen to the best of us. I'm saying there's things that are done to us, and our biology can be hacked, and our behaviors and everything can be So I got pretty disappointed in myself. And I told someone, I said, look, I've failed. My first day, I failed. And I feel like I've started the year a failure. I counsel people. I do numerology, which is basically counseling and helping people realize how amazing they are. I show them who they are. They fall in love with who they are again. And then I counsel them on certain things that, or confirm things for them in bits and pieces. And I always say to people, look, every act we do, every single individual thing, if you get your whole day and break it down into everything, you wake up, you have breakfast, you put your clothes on. If all of those individual things are successful, and the majority of them for the day are successful, then you've had a successful day. Now, on the first day of the year, at least half of my day was unsuccessful. And that's a way that we can feel good about ourselves and move forward. And so we're all prone and we're all open to, that's what duality is. It's not always going to be good. And even when I do numerology, I give people a group of core characteristics, positive and negative, because we're not all positive or all negative. We flip between the two. Obviously, we like to stay in the positive more, and depending on how stubborn you are, depends on how many you stay in the negative when your life isn't going the way you like it and you get into these negative states of mind. And so it's fluid, right? We're not all positive or negative all the time. And we flip between the two depending on what. And then as we build resilience and as we build confidence in ourselves, we learn how to flip faster, how to not give the negative so much attention and bits and pieces, and other people don't. And I'm no better than or worse than any of you listening to this right now. It's just the way it is. But I've found that in the last sort of 6 months, when really getting to the fore of understanding a lot more about myself and about how energy works and all the other parts of life that you don't get the information for, I'm finding that I don't really need to go and tell people my truth. I'm doing this now for free for you as a service to help your life to eradicate fears. That's what this one's for. Because I'll see things in life or communication, or I'll go, oh, demons falling out. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's full on in fear about it. So I will podcast for free for you to hopefully come along and get this information and help you not be fearful, because I know that life is so much better without it. So what I've found out recently is if I just stop with my own life and don't tell anyone my truth, and just turn everything inwards to me and be the best version of me. I know it's pretty cliche, and I'm not talking just about fitness and things. I'm just talking about just invest in yourself. Don't give away energy to things or to groups or spiritual groups or things, because most of them have, ulterior motives and negative energy and stuff as well. So I go, look, if I don't see the proof now, whereas before I used to go, oh, wow, these guys are spiritual, they're with me, they're on my side, they make me feel good, I can get some validation, I can get this, that, the other. But then I realise I'm with them for 4 years and they've never given me one piece of proof that I can test that any of what they're saying is real. And I've just spent all my energy and given it all to them. So what I'm saying is, if you just do you, and so say another one comes along now and I go, okay, that sounds good, what proof you got? And you investigate and there's nothing. You go, sorry, mate, you're not getting my energy, you're not getting my time, you're not getting me to waste my energy. I'm going to turn that energy around and give it to myself. And it's a huge process, right? Because we're so immersed in this life and this culture and this society and all this thing, and we're dependent on getting certain things a certain way, and have been for a long time. Okay, many of the things to charge us, you've got to remember, we're sovereign beings. Imagine, when before there was an economic system, we had direct access to everything. Now everyone has built this bridge to everything so that they can charge us for the whatever they're selling us. That's where there's bridges for everything, because we're in an economic system. So it is a process, it is a work in progress. We can chip away at things, we can live and learn, we can and we already do it, but we do it on a slower, more uncomfortable sort of subconscious stage, I guess, where something, we know something's not good for us. It builds up, it builds up, it builds up, it builds up, and then it gets in a really, really bad way, and it's affecting us bad. That's when we snap, and that's when we change, and that's when we start going in the other direction. I'm saying let's start with that and question it at the start whether it's good for us. Let's question it at the start whether this is going to, and there's certain rules or affirmations that you can give yourself along the way that can protect yourself. Back when I had a mental health problem, my mind was all over the place. So I had to give myself affirmations to wedge myself, to ground myself in some form of reality, to not let my mind take me somewhere else. And now I know why I did it, because the mind is so powerful. So, I would give myself affirmations like, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Meaning, you don't keep flogging a dead horse and get nothing. Like, change it up a bit. If you keep doing this and it's not working, change it up, Aaron. And there's other things that I've seen recently. It's like, it's not what you do some of the times, right? It's what you do all the time that counts. Especially that was to do with diet, and myself, I'm trying all these different diets and bits and pieces and different diets for different things, and revisiting old diets that I did before with a brain diet, or just mixing and matching up. And I'm like, yeah, you might be really healthy and clean eating and no high sugars and no more soft drinks and stuff, and you're very level now. There's no ups and downs and bits and pieces within your biology and your system. But we're humans, right? If I want to go and have one or something that I used to have as unhealthy or whatever, that's cool, right? Don't deny yourself that, but don't make that the thing that you do all the time. Make it the thing you do sometimes. And it's like there's no one, when it comes to diet, there's no one single diet that is perfect for all human beings. So the whole weight loss and diet system, $1 billion, by the way, is wrong. But they've sold you $1 billion that you thought you needed. And, well, some of them are successful, some of them not. And then something will succeed for you, and then some guy will get on and try and sell that to you. He's going, oh, look, I did this and I'm like that and it worked for me, but now you know what? It works for all of you, and I'll sell you the reasons why, what you can tell people when they object to what I'm saying to you. Wrong again. And that's all adds to the confusion out there. And then people defend it, and then people argue, and then there's more division, and we're just in the same boat of more confusion, more overwhelm, and we don't know what the fuck's going on. And it works beautiful. You know why it works beautiful? Because all of that division and all of that dysfunction and everything, that keeps you in a state where you are dependent on everything that has been marketed to you, and to basically hand over not only your power, but hand over all of your money to live in that world. And at the end of the week, you have nothing left over, you have no abundance, you have nothing, and you think it's normal. And that's what consciousness is. I always say to people, you don't know what you don't know, right? We're laughing and ridiculing things that could make our lives better. But because it's the unknown, it's the fearful part. So, I guess just to conclude this episode of the Aaron Russos podcast today, it's important to know that there are no demons, no fallen angels. And while our cultures for 200 years has been presenting this in pictures, in movies, in scriptures, in all manner of form, without any proof whatsoever that any of it existed, you've bought it. And even a lot of you are still going to say, nah, I'm going to stick with my fallen angel thing. And that's okay. I'm only presenting core truth with evidence, with things that you can test, with paths that you can go down to bring yourself to a better knowing. And, whether it be any time in the future, one day this will be what we call common knowledge. And that's the way the world works. That's fluid as well. We go along, and as more people sort of get coherence on certain matters and share things and bits and pieces, we get to it. The mainstream media will never present you with information like this to take you off course from everything that they get paid to market to you. So when I guess the biggest example I have for this is that when I was sick, I was on a medication that made me like a zombie, and the medical company that provided that said, oh look, you've been taking it for so long that you have to take it for the rest of your life. And I went to 5 doctors and they said, yep, that's true. My own doctor, who even, knows that I don't really stick to limitations. And then, so I went online. Now, Google is considered the main search engine, right? We even accept that as gospel. Some people, use it as a doctor, use it as a most trusted source. And so on 20 pages on Google, it shows a picture of how you can't get off these medications and you have to take them all your life. Now, at the time, if you get on an alternative search engine or in a country that's not so censored, and you use Google Translate and you start looking, and I went, oh, isn't that strange? I've been shown that now all of a sudden there's 5 pages on an independent search engine of people that have got off the medication and exactly how they've done it, and they've given it away free. That absolutely scared me to my core. Now, what do you think would happen if anyone found such a profound piece of information that would change human history and went and tried to share that? Because it's full on, right? What do you think happens? That's a person is called a conspiracy theorist. That's crazy, isn't it? Someone that could save millions of lives, suffering of billions of people. And so it's so profound, they get so excited, they think, oh my God, I'm going to help. They don't want to sell it. They don't want to, weaponize it or make money out of whatever. They just want to share it with everyone because it's so full on. They've been given this absolute gift, this gold. And then they run and they start telling people, and no one wants to know. No one wants to know because we've created a controlled opposition, or everything is just completely topsy-turvy. And when you understand all the things that in life that I had to go back and relearn stuff. I just thought when I healed myself, that was it. Wow, Aaron, well done, pat on the back, very profound, amazing experience, bang. Oh shit, now I've got to go and work out why no one wants to know. And as you go along, each day, each week, each month, each year, further truths uncover, and you don't want to know them either. And slowly you come along and you go, oh, they're in fear, but we're only dealing with them. And it's just the way it is. So I've gone, all right, don't worry about them. Stop crying, Aaron. Stop crying that humanity has been fully taken advantage of, and they're everyone's dying and suffering needlessly. Stop. Don't be so sensitive, Aaron. Don't be so compassionate. Don't be so kind. Don't be so empathetic to your fellow humans, even though there's billions of them that are suffering and hundreds of millions that are dying needlessly, that have families that are just like you, that are brothers and sisters and mothers and all this stuff going on. Aaron, you're going to have to harden up, mate. Sorry, buddy. Stop your crying. You've been crying for 2 weeks, Aaron. They don't want to know. And then you go and offend them by telling them that they're killing themselves, and they still don't want to know. So at some point, Aaron, you need to stop. You need to stop caring for humanity. And so therefore, Aaron goes back to normal life, and he puts it out of his head. It's very easy to see suffering in front of you, and your heart aches, and you can't not help, right? It's a fellow human being. But if you turn around, you're not looking at it anymore. It's very easy. So I did that. I looked away. And then you go along and something else will happen in your life, or something else will come along and go, oh shit, I have to get back on here. I have to help them. And so you go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And you start then to see very small wins. You get to see small groups of people listening. You get everyone that actually listens and understands what you're saying, or actually investigates it to a point of really having a good understanding, all give you 5 stars, all believe you, all test things and see things and think this is miraculous. So while it might be a small number, because that's all you've got to, you're getting 100% strike rate, which nothing else on earth has ever got 100% strike rate before. So those little wins they beat the overwhelm of everyone knocking me back down, or the people that are taking advantage of you, trying to cancel me, censor me, silence me, stop thousands and thousands of correspondences. Those people, while they've always won because they're bullies, there are little small pockets of you that have been giving me the feedback that you get it 100% of the time. So it's just a matter of growing that smaller minority till one day you're all free. And that's why we're here. And the first step is to realise that most of the negative stuff and the things that are going on, like demons and fallen angels, there's no such thing. They're all metaphoric and absolutely designed, and you've had it for a long time, so it's going to take you a long time to get rid of it. So thank you for listening to my little podcast today. I feel free to follow, to share, and to to really start asking the questions yourself and be curious. And if you don't understand it fully, but you've been normally just trusting stuff that comes along, maybe start being curious at the start, so that you don't have to take things on and and life's a lot more fun that way anyway. I know that it's full on and you're tired and you're busy and all the rest of it, but ask the questions first and you'll get a little bit more personal joy yourself, and that will make all that tiredness and all that hard work and being part of that that system a lot better. And you'll feel better, and you'll start having little small improvements, and then eventually you'll have you'll wake up and you go, I don't even know who I am anymore. I'm this amazing thing, and this is amazing life. And then you'll go, oh my God, I want to share it with everyone, and everyone will go, no, we don't want to know, mate. We're already in survival mode doing our thing. Thanks for listening. Have a great day, morning, noon, night, wherever you are.